For this Founders Friday, I went to meet Stefano from Falco Watches. Stefano is another great example of somebody that took the leap to build something great. And Falco has grown to be one of the best places to buy a vintage watch in London. When did you realise you had to go all in?
I realised I had to go all in when COVID hit. I was living with my future parent-in-laws and I had a recruitment business at the time and I was doing the watches as a side hustle. And obviously there was no one recruiting. So I took out 95% of my savings in my Fundsmith account and I started buying watches. Actually more for a means of actually funding my outgoings. Went from me buying watches as a bit of a hobby, wearing them, then selling them, to actually buying them to sell. So it was probably March of 2020 when I realized I should go all out rather than it being a part-time thing.
And what scared you the most before taking that leap?
When you're used to earning a relatively decent amount of money, which I was at the time, consistently, without too much hassle. I've been in recruitment for 10 years. I had my clientele. I knew everybody. I was comfortable. I was putting food on the table. I was putting a decent amount into my savings every month. And so to go from that comfort to unknown, that was a big leap mentally, but I did it because at the time, I didn't have kids. I had a long-term girlfriend. So my outgoings were as low as they could have been at that point. So I made the decision to go all in then when I could.
And was there a moment where you thought it might not work?
Oh, for sure. I remember getting my first office later in that year. So after the first wave of lockdowns, then we had the summer, then we were doing the sort of social distancing, then in and out of tiers and all that nonsense. So January 2021, I got my office as the Vintage Watch Lad in Queen Street in Bank, and it was dead. I launched my website, 40 watches on there, all various amounts. And for some reason in my mind, I thought, oh, I'm going to sell loads of watches because I've now got a website. But actually, at the time, it made very little difference. It was actually more to do with, building trust and a name for myself rather than just having a nice website. Started 2021 when I put more money into it. I had rent going out every month. I had a baby on the way. That was when I thought, fuck, have I made the right decision here?
What would you say are the biggest things that people don't see behind the scenes?
People don't realize that, to make this all work, 90% of it is what people don't see. It's all the administration that has to go on in the back end. It's the checking of watches, it's making sure everything's correct, it's sending things off for service, chasing stuff, ordering parts, all that coming together, organising Jake to shoot them, getting everything ready for him to shoot, make sure everything's clean, the write-ups. That takes 90% of the time. The appointments that I do in the showroom are definitely the most enjoyable, but also the easiest part. It's the things that people don't see is what really makes the business tick.
Yeah. And lastly, was it worth it?
Oh, 100%. Very similar to you. I was doing a job that I was really good at, that I sort of fell into as a means to get myself to London, where all my friends were. And you get really comfortable. And when you take a step back, you realise that you're just sort of treading water. You're not doing anything out of the ordinary. You've gone through all the discomfort phase. You're just cruising. It's actually quite boring. And then a friend of mine said to me, well, if you're not growing, you're dying. And I just kept thinking about that quote over and over again, thinking, I am literally, day to day, I do the same thing. I'm doing nothing different. And what can I talk about all day? Cars and watches. I thought, I know enough about them. And everyone I dealt with at the time weren't particularly impressive. So I thought, why not? And I genuinely do not feel like I'm working every day. Some people would probably say I'm not working. I'm just taking the piss out of everybody. It was the best decision I ever made. That and meeting my wife and asking her to marry me was by far the best decision I've ever made in my life. And I can benefit a lot more people along the way, including yourself. Like I said to you about share, I said, you're going to do something properly, you have to focus your time. I was doing both the recruitment and the watches at one point, 50-50. And I was just basically worse at both rather than being good at one. So yeah, that would be my advice to anybody who wants to get into it. If you're going to do it, you can't take shortcuts. You got to do it 100%. It's got to be your focus. You've got to live and breathe it.
Yeah, no, that's great advice. And there's a common theme in something you've said and James at Kibble said about your wives and your partners. How important has she been to the success of your business?
I generally can't stress enough how important having a supportive partner behind the scenes actually is. Margaret Thatcher always famously said about her husband. He was so supportive of her, gave her the ability to do what she did. And 100%, that was Abby before. Abby when I met her. And she was the one that was actually saying, you should do it. You should, giving you that boost. And I wanted to do it, but when you've got the support of someone who you love and you spend most of your time with saying, go on, it really does help.
Now, I don't know if you saw the message I sent, but I sent you a challenge to pick your favourite watch out of the stock you've got.
Yes.
I can film bits of it. Do you know off the top of your mind?
I do. And it's one that, sadly or not sadly, depending on how you view it, we've already sold it. But it's, as you know, used to run a company that was called Fathom, turned into Falco. Fathom was named after my personal favourite ever watch, which was the 50 Fathoms. And we happen to have one here that's in new old stock condition from the late 60s. And it is absolutely mind-blowing. So that probably is my favourite, alongside this 64-0 that I'm wearing, which was the first ever reference to have the screw-down pushers. And the only Rolex Daytona ever made only in steel. It's quite interesting. But I think for me, the Blancpain 50 Fathoms, it's a Tetney sub, no rad as well. Early one with the radium bezel, for me, just ticks all the boxes.